Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Welcome to our bi-weekly dev stream. My name is Matt. Here with me today is Alcas and of course Mark. And we got some neat things to show you today. I think there's gonna be some neat stuff. We recently, as you guys probably know, we recently launched the World Conquest mode, at least in its first form, and that's been a fun little experience. Why don't you tell us about how that was for you guys? Kind of getting out the door.
It was the last stream. The last stream was before World Conquest, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because
we were ready to.
We had this last weekend, and then we had the non-stream weekend. Okay, yeah. So that was very, it was a lot of work to get that out the door. And it actually turned out to be a little better than, not necessarily a little better, but it turned out to not go up in flames, which we thought there was a chance.
Yeah.
A chance for that. It was probably the riskiest update that we tried yet, and it was almost like it got to the point where it was like, okay, actually not sure if this is gonna be stable, not sure if everything's gonna go up in flames, and then we just kind of like, it's
Did we even talk about the fact that our building literally went up in flames at one point while we were?
No, that was a really So that was a really stressful time because not only was we were trying to hit this milestone, but the building did actually go like up in flames. I don't know if it was that week, maybe like the week prior or something.
Yeah, it was just the week.
But it was when we were working on World Conquest mode, and we had to leave the office and come back, and it was just a lot. Anyways, long story short, I'm not gonna ramble on about this, but the long story short is the last like 3-4 weeks have just been the craziest weeks since the project started, and this week has been much better. Like this Monday, Tuesday, we've just been able to kind of catch our breath a bit and sort of like plan the next couple of chunks of features without being under this like scary deadline.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, thanks for all the patience with all the various problems that have been happening. I'm not going to get into it, but some of it was smooth, but some of it was not so smooth. So just thanks for putting up with all the problems.
And we're going to be continually working on it as well. So like, if there's some things seem rocky now, hopefully they'll get ironed out going forward. Like this was iteration 1, so.
Well, iteration two. Iteration 2 is
I guess technically,
yeah.
The first step is always the hardest to like get it out and like try to iron everything out in the first thing.
Well, and I talked about this before. I think it's worth mentioning it again, so that you guys understand our perspective. It's when you're rolling out something really big like this. There's a lot of like friction involved and a lot of things that stop you, right? Like a lot of corner cases, a lot of like what ifs, a lot of scary stuff. Like what if it blows up and everyone hates us and then we lose like the whole community, right? Like there's a lot of scary stuff that kind of makes you really question things and really pushes back these sort of features. Like we were talking about World Conquest for so long, but a big part of why it took so long is because ultimately we were a little bit scared, right? We were a little bit scared about the consequences of rolling this out and like having it totally be like a disaster. But eventually we just got to the point where we're like, okay, well this has to happen one way or another. So even though it was a risky release, we knew it had to happen, right? So yeah.
I mean, it's been exciting to see it work though. I think like when you actually are able to go from place to place, and then when that stuff all started actually working for me to see these maps that I've been sort of like working on isolated each one, then suddenly, and we've been planning to put them together, and suddenly it's like, okay, now they're actually together was like really, really cool for me personally.
Actually having to line up the roads.
Actually having to line things up. Oh man, what a headache. But no, it's been really, really cool. So
cool. Should we move on to community?
Yeah, unless there's anything you wanna say about the World Conquest stuff.
Since you want to say Alcas?
Since you had worked on it,
you're the special guest.
Well, I guess I mainly worked on the server travel feature, where it's obviously in its first steps. There's no vehicle travel, which would be awesome. Which is what I'm working on next. But it's been tough. It's just the whole. It's getting everything working together. There's so many moving parts, There's the map. There's support from the map side from Matt. There's support from everywhere else. So it has to kind of line up, which I know it can feel broken, and it is broken a lot of times. But for how many things that had to come together for it to work as well as it does, I'm happy. I'm happy that it does. It's not going up in flames like every second. So the fact that it works at all, it's great. It's really makes me happy. So we can now from here we can move on to the next steps, vehicle travel, and well, I was about to just spoil the next review. No.
Cool.
All right, so we're gonna move on to community highlights, which is usually pretty fun and full of a lot of stuff. And again, you guys don't make HB's job easy, so there's lots and lots of stuff to go through.
Yeah.
So I'll let Mark kind of handle this, walking us through this.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen a lot of these, but this is really cool. It's like an automatic rifle. It looks like a lot of the materials are pretty polished too here.
It looks pretty similar to our stuff, honestly.
It's So this is an automatic rifle, so it's kind of like an assault rifle, I'm assuming. Not quite as heavy, high caliber as a machine gun, but not as like short range as like a submachine gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool. I think we were talking about doing sort of like one more, I guess, primary weapon possibly before we go into like early access, right? So like right now in terms of primary weapons, we have we have the rifle, the carbine, the submachine gun, and we're thinking there's probably room for like one more, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool seeing this concept.
Yeah, it looks really good. I think it looks really polished. It's surprisingly, like surprisingly, I think it might be the most polished piece of 3D art that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. I think the big thing here that is sometimes missing is in like the materiality.
Yeah.
It looks like all the materiality is there, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Flamethrower. So flamethrower is interesting because we've definitely talked about doing flamethrowers many times. I think the reason why we've kind of like held back on it so far is because we don't want it to just be like a damage dealing thing that happens to spread.
Yeah.
We kind of want, if there is fire, it should, to at least some extent, it should behave like fire, which is why, one of the reasons why we kind of held off on working on it, because we didn't want to just do like a really crappy version of it, right?
Yeah. And you also want to make sure that the weapon is not OP off the gate.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, okay, well, if I'm using the flamethrower, I'm carrying, explosive tanks in my back. If somebody's not covering my back, I gotta, the enemy should be able to blow you up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I think like the enemy being able to blow you up is one of those one of the cool things that if you don't have it, like you don't have to do a flamethrower and then have it like missing all these cool parts, right? Like being able to light things on fire, have that spread and like, all these things, right? So
I want to do it properly.
I thought that was kind of cool. This is cool.
Colonial propaganda poster.
Really nice,
Yeah.
Again, quality of art every single week improves.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm noticing. It's like a consistent like curve of like art quality. I haven't seen any of these videos. Do you have any experience with any of them?
I didn't see a lot of them this week, but I think this one I was just watching like a bit before this stream started, and I thought it was kind of cool because it's not your usual like funny video with. Or is this the one?
With the half-track hat?
Never mind.
No, this is the funny
I'm totally thinking about a different video.
There's two that have very
this
similar
one is kind of
soundtracks.
funny, yeah. This one is kind of funny. So I didn't really see this one, but this is like the one-man army video, right? So I guess showing the experience of being a one-man army, which is funny because we're constantly trying to turn the game away from like not so much to like discourage, but not to support the one-man army type of gameplay, right?
Well, it's a balance because the more power you give one person, the more you open up possibilities for griefing, possibilities for someone to ruin it for everyone else and whatnot, right? So,
and it's not so much that we don't like want people to play that way. It's more that it's more so that we want people to play in the cooperative way.
Yeah.
But if you happen to figure out a way to play solo, that's totally fine.
And to be fair, I mean, he's here, with like a bunch of equipment that probably someone else produced and supplied, right? So he's not. It would probably take him way more longer if he had to like go and produce all of his own equipment. So if your team's strategy is to make sure that you have one Rambo guy that's like equipped to the teeth and like armed to the teeth and goes behind the enemy lines to screw up their.
It's really hard to do what this guy's doing. Like I actually personally have tried to play the game like that many times just on my own, and I get killed a lot. Like I get killed a lot by like clan players, and it's always really funny because I see these guys talk on like Discord and like I know them kind of from like Discord.
Yeah.
And then they walk up to my corpse and they're like, "Hey Mark, how's it going?" And I'm just like,
"Hey Mark."
Yeah, but no one shows me any mercy. I always get killed.
That's great.
Even if they know who I am, I'm like a target, like everyone. But anyways, like playing solo is incredibly tough. So I totally think whatever is in this video is like really impressive, right? So the other video I want to comment on was that one we were just watching, Outcast. This one.
I think it might be this one.
It was like the day in a life, right? Because it had a completely different tone from what we usually see. It's not like a really funny video. It's not really like overly serious. It's more taking this perspective of like, it almost has like a melancholy,
like a serious tone.
Yeah,
right? Like it's like
the
melancholy of like war. Like you gotta like work it, but then this war. You lost your friends.
It's a particularly nice touch that he's using the sledgehammer as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was like just a subtle little detail.
It's like showing how how hard these long days of war are or something is the feeling feeling that I kind of get from it. And I just like this one because it's kind of like a bit out of the norm about what we usually see. So I thought that was worth kind of like pointing out there.
Actually, what would be really cool is if one of those stories, somebody took that video and then like over this video dubbed like the read like the story.
Like
video in the background.
Oh, you mean like the war journals?
The war journals, one of the war journals, and just like read it over.
Yeah, I can totally
the story.
picture that.
That'd be cool.
I don't know if you guys seen it, but there's like a Twitter account where this guy tweets from the perspective of a soldier.
Yeah.
If you literally read his tweets on top of that video, it would totally match, I think.
I really like that Twitter account also.
Yeah.
The way I followed it.
You guys should follow it. He has like not too many followers, but I think
What is his handle? You should plug his handle then. What is his?
Yeah, it's I mean I don't mind just really quickly here. Where's the notification thing? The Journal of a Soldier.
Journal of a Soldier.
Right.
From a Foxhole.
Yeah.
From a Foxhole is the account.
From a Foxhole. So if you guys are watching this and you have a Twitter account, go follow this guy. His
cool stuff.
His tweets are really cool.
Especially if you're a fan of Foxhole, because that's exactly.
I don't know why you would be on the stream if you weren't a fan of Foxhole. I mean, maybe you're just stopping by,
maybe
right?
game dev. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's cool. But anyways, getting back to.
Why does that one have the packs?
I don't know actually. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the festival.
Yeah, this is from a while ago. I guess maybe that was just the cover.
Yeah.
The cover image.
I guess somebody did.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's funny.
This was a cool story.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Because obviously we're not going to read it on the stream, but...
Yeah, so from what I gather from it, the cool thing is that this was like a true story, right? Or it was based on an actual true story that happened in the game. And I think it was during one of the World Conquest Wars. And beginning of the story, there was some sort of like argument about someone having stolen this one character's sledgehammer, right? And then they had to like make some sort of a final stand against like the enemy, and they just made it out at the end. And then at the very end of the story, it's like, except that Leander's sledgehammer was never found. So it was a really cool,
You just
like,
ruined it.
sorry,
Spoilers.
I ruined the story, but I thought it was really cool just because it was kind of like based on like a real event. So it's almost like a.
That's awesome.
Like
I love those ones. It's like
yeah, it's like a.
yeah.
I don't know what's that called, man. When it's, you're
Role
the
play. Yeah.
story writer.
I'm not sure what you're getting at. Do you mean like a short?
It's based on a real story.
Based on a true story.
But then it's sort of, I guess it's sort of like dramatized a bit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Based on a true story. It's fine.
I like those because it makes like when you're in the game, if you remember those stories, you can be like, oh, this is actually kind of like that story. Like,
yeah,
it's neat.
Yeah, so if you're interested in this kind of stuff and you haven't checked the community highlights, every single week HB features some of these. So
and on our stream we talk about it, and usually we're much better at talking about it. But the guy who usually runs the show is he's not feeling well. So.
That HB, he's a slacker.
Yeah, he's a slacker. So I mean, I guess.
And are these just general like?
I think it's just
sort of like let's play videos and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of cool stuff here.
This one is funny because the Foxhole shoots their own half trap, I think.
Yeah, this one here?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Some guy rolls in with an enemy half trap or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's so overwhelming seeing all these videos just because, like, I think that...
That's a bug.
when we started this project, thinking about even seeing one of these videos was already like an exciting thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really
awesome.
Kind of like overwhelming to just kind of be like, and yet more of these videos, right?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's really
just
cool.
I used to know every single piece of thing that was made for the game, and now I just can't keep up. Like I don't know anything anymore. Like there's way too many videos and stuff.
This is so cool. Like,
I don't know how he's doing these camera movements, by the way. Does he have some special like 3D movement input or something?
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I can understand the glitch that breaks the camera, but now he's just being really smooth.
He's just being really smooth.
Yeah, how's he doing all these pans? Like he's doing some pro like cinematographic like pans. It's pretty
it's pretty cool. This is really cool. I mean, we've always talked about like putting in some kind of a tool to help these players like actually do this the proper way instead of using a hack. But the issue is like we're still like that can be exploited in a way, right? Because you can see more than the enemy. So it's sort of, but I mean it's kind of people are already doing it, so it's a bit of a tough one. But we're sort of it's sort of on our minds because of the glitch and everybody using it. Like.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like.
Yeah.
It's like jaywalking. Technically, it's not allowed, but everybody just lets it go because,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, we did.
That's a bad comparison.
We did discuss having a. I don't know if you want to spoil that now, but eventually maybe having community chosen journalists, war journalists.
Yeah. Well, it's not even a spoil. It's just a brainstorm.
Yeah. It's like a brainstorm.
It's just a brainstorm. And this is a cool wallpaper. It's really in theme with,
the marketing that we already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this was a bit shorter because I think HB is being a bit more picky in what he's putting in here. I think a lot of it is because he doesn't have the time. And another video from I Saw Bear. You should definitely check these out. It's really cool, actually. I gotta stop and talk about this because he's so I've been following his videos, and apparently he, I don't know if any of you guys, I'm sure some of you guys have watched his videos, but he's moved out into like a cabin out in nature somewhere, on the West Coast, I think, right?
Yeah,
I think he's from Vancouver or something, or somewhere on the West Coast, and he's still making these videos from that cabin.
Yeah,
which is really, really, I don't know. I think
not only were his videos already really good, but now they're impressive.
Yeah, the fact that you can make it like in a cabin with probably really crappy internet and like not a lot of tools is I think really cool. So yeah, I guess that's about it. This is kind of funny, but I'm used to this kind of stuff by now, so it's kind of like whatever. Cool. I guess we'll move on to talking about features and stuff. Yeah, just sort of like this is usually in the stream when we kind of talk about what we're working on. And so right now, the big hard work with World Conquest is we're kind of like past that first little hump, and it's still going to be probably taking up most of our time, but we're starting to like be able to work on a few other things as well. Some of it is supporting World Conquest, but they're kind of like standalone features on their own as well, right? But this first thing I'm going to talk about is the border checkpoint structure. So this is something that I had kind of mentioned as more at the conceptual phase, like a couple of streams ago, maybe it's last stream. But basically, this is something that we want to add to the game where you're still able to be. This is like a World Conquest exclusive feature where this structure will allow you to share your items or to transfer your items to a neighboring region without actually going there. So in the case, for example, if a neighboring region is full, you can still support them with a supply line, and you can send over your items, your weapons, and hopefully help the war effort over there.
And that's like the real motivation for this thing is like if there is a server that is full, because we are gonna allow vehicles to travel and everything. It's not like we want it to be just sort of this like restricted.
Exactly, and to be honest, people have been trying this already, and like unfortunately they're having problems that so far that have made the experience sort of worse. But there have definitely been players that have been wanting to operate in the safety of like a dominated region and wanting to help. And there's one example of a player that I know that was operating like behind enemy or behind their own friendly line, and with the truck they drove to the border and tried to like bring their stuff over, and because of some bug in server traveling, unfortunately they weren't able to bring that truck over, and they lost the truck, unfortunately. But if there is one sort of a positive thing to come out of that is that we know people are trying to do this, right? Mm-hmm. We know people are trying to support these neighboring regions when those regions are full. So hopefully they'll be able to use the structure, right? And how it's going to work is you have to claim the structure. It's going to be a world structure, kind of like a town hall. Once you claim it on both sides, you walk up to it on one side, you transfer the items in there. There's going to be like a send button. You hit send, and then those items will appear in the storage in the structure on the other side, right? So
seems like a really good idea. It seems really useful. It seems like something that even in just our testing I've kind of wanted to have.
Useful on paper. We'll see what happens, right? So that's the first thing. It's another feature that I want to talk about is field machine gun, right? So this isn't actually a real thing, and like we know that. It's sort of a hybrid of a few different weapons that are based on real things, but this in itself, just to sort of like be on the same page, is not a real weapon that existed. It's kind of like a cross between like a heavy machine gun on wheels and sort of a mobile like flak cannon, like the flak 38. So it's not an actual flak cannon, but it sort of has this feeling of this like massive gun that you're pushing around, and it's like an anti-infantry gun mounted on the wheels, and you're gonna need two players to move and operate it, much like the field artillery. And it's going to be excellent at suppressing foxholes and other passive defenses. So it's sort of like, now that we have this suppression mechanic, we want to bring this in to sort of be the one of the best tools you can use for suppression. But even besides the suppression, we think this is going to be really useful for taking out a lot of enemy soldiers, right? So I think this is going to be. We're really excited about this. We sort of wanted a weapon that captured the feeling of this for like a long time, and we think now is the right time, right?
So how exactly is it going to work? Like, is it just going to be like placed like an artillery, or is it going to be like, you know, in terms of mechanical?
Okay, yeah. So the current plan is you're going to be able to. You need 2 players to push it around, and you need 2 players to be able to like rotate the whole thing, right? So there's going to be 1 player that's in charge of the aiming and the shooting, and the firing arc is going to be fairly narrow, but you can swivel it. Mm-hmm. And then the other player is going to be there to support if you need to turn the whole thing, right? And also to actually fire it, you do need that second player there to support actually feeding in the ammo, right? So it's definitely like a 2-man job, but we're gonna be tweaking exactly the details of how that stuff works. So like that is the first plan, but as we get further into the implementation and testing, we might find something doesn't work that well, and we might change it. But that's the plan as of now.
So just one last question. So you can't have someone who's like pushing and turning it at the same time as someone's firing, because that second player needs to be feeding like an ammo.
Exactly.
Back.
So
okay.
you have to. The idea is the swivel and like the narrow firing arc is you're able to like do that once it's kind of stationary. But if you want to turn the whole thing, you're not able to like continue firing that at the same time.
So it's going to need to be like a well thought out placement, and then if we need to adjust, you're not going to be able to do it really on the fly. You're going to have to like stop, turn, adjust, then start.
That's the current plan.
Okay.
That could be tweaked, right?
Sounds cool.
Yeah, cool.
I'm excited about it.
And we're going with the concept on the left for anyone who is curious. We've done these 3 concepts, and we're gonna go with that one on the left.
Which one? There's 2 on the left.
Oh, sorry.
The top left or the bottom left?
The bottom left.
Okay, the one with like the shield.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm really excited about this. I was saying to you yesterday, it kind of looks like a mobile turret.
Yeah.
It's not, like it's almost unlike anything I've seen before. It's almost like an AA gun, but it's kind of like.
Well, the sort of like reference, the sort of like reference inspiration usage of this, right? And it's not the same weapon, right? But in Saving Private Ryan, at the end of the movie, the Germans are pushing around like a
Gauntlet gun or something.
No, it's like a Flak 38.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually that's actually like an anti-air gun that they just like shot forward and start shooting it at people. So actually doesn't. I mean, I'm not a historian, but I think that doesn't really make sense. I mean, my theory is that maybe they found that inside like a museum or something, and they thought it was cool to put in a movie, so they put it in the movie. But if you read about it, the weapon's actually not used for like anti-infantry, right? But we like the idea of like 2 people pushing around this really heavy gun, and sort of being able to push this around like a town and just start like, you know, taking out foxholes, taking out like enemies, and we just wanted, and then we thought that with the suppression mechanic, this is the perfect time for this. Right?
Or setting up like an interior garrison inside of a town, so if they break through like your initial defenses, as soon as they walk up, they're just gonna get like roasted. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure people will find a whole bunch of different ways to use this. So that is the currently called the field machine gun. Not necessarily the final name yet, but that's what we're calling it now.
Sounds
and then
really cool.
The last thing we want to talk about in terms of stuff we're working on is that was not good.
It's okay. We're not even on that screen, so don't worry, I got you.
Okay, good. Thanks for getting my back, man. I've been trying to turn off like my Hangouts, because this is my personal laptop. As much as I like talking to you, all my personal life with you guys. So thanks, Matt, for
bank password
for catching that. But maybe what I'll do now is maybe Maybe you can talk about the map a bit, and I'll figure out how to like completely shut off.
So we're gonna show you guys probably the earliest version of a map that we've ever shown you, which is both exciting and terrifying. But it's just gonna be a little snippet of kind of what the new map is gonna feel like. I suppose is the best way to describe it. It's a little bit more. We're trying to push the snow wasteland sort of aspect a little bit more. It's not going to be like this rolling deep snow like we have in Callahan's Passage. It's going to be more this like blizzardy sort of wasteland that you might see in sort of the Eastern Front. But it's all sort of embedded inside of this like ancient battleground where there was like fortress. This is really distracting. Where there was like a fortress that was like destroyed, and
it would be really cool if eventually. I know the guys are probably going to ask this right away.
Yeah.
Is there going to be actual weather? Like, are you going to get cold, and are you going to you're going to need to find a jacket or something? Yes, that would be cool eventually, but not right now.
It'd be really awesome if weather played part, because even Callahan's Passage is pretty harsh, but it's a little bit like sunny there. There's some weather, but it's not like it's not like what we're kind of going for with this, where there's a little bit more like a. I mean, it's literally called the weathered expanse, so we can tell where our minds are. You ready, Mark?
I should be.
You're not
I
sure.
closed all my Chrome windows to make sure that no notifications.
We need to send a letter to Google.
I know.
Saying, hey, Hangouts,
Yeah,
please.
You have to be able to put it on pause or something. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
What you should do is you should just have a guest account
Is there gonna be actual
on your laptop, like
Yeah, you know what? I think this will be fine.
So is there going to be actual weather? That's something that like we're really excited about. Something that we've definitely talked about for this map. It's probably only a matter of time, honestly. So this is like Mark's just kind of like running around an early part of the map. If you actually open the map, you can see. If you want to open that like the world map, you can see kind of the layout. This is like, again, this is early, so it's not as like flushed out looking as other maps. But this is sort of going to be the general layout. Obviously, it's like subject to change, but it's a very, I mean, it's almost sort of symmetrical in its layout, but it's not because of the way that the roads are structured, and it's big, like wide open spaces. So it should be pretty interesting to see how this is handled. I think there's going to be some battles here. So if you want to kind of run around again. A lot of the road layouts are based on actual like towns in rural Finland and stuff like that. That was sort of where a lot of the inspiration came from. So what Mark's kind of in the Warden starting area, and this hypothetically in the World Conquest mode will be the Warden starting area in the entire conquest. So.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is that once this map is ready, we'll be able to move World Conquest up to the north, so that we can have a bit more variation. It won't just be the same regions over and over again. And we're also playing around with the idea of potentially swapping the home regions. As well. So there's like further variations in how these wars run, so that like eventually in the future, with the World Conquest Wars, we can sort of like run a series of them and then just change out the layout a couple times, and then when we expand westward and there's like 9 maps eventually, then we'll be able to like run these like, okay, it's gonna be this week is gonna be like these 4 regions, and then it's gonna be these 4 regions, and then it's gonna be this region but swapped, so on and so forth. So the idea is that hopefully like no 2 world conquests will feel the same over like a short period of time. I mean, eventually we're gonna have to like use the same combination, but hopefully we'll be able to like not do that too frequently, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
so yeah, there's not much else to say too much about it other than it's themed around this place that was like a giant checkpoint for the Warden Empire, and this was once the location of a great battle that obviously kind of scarred the land and kind of took out this fortress and took out these walls and sort of broke through, and now it's been a long time since, and the people have resettled in this area. And so now people are literally settling in the ruins of like a fortress and like, you know, in these walls, and it's in front of it's this giant sort of like expansive wasteland of snow that has some small towns and obviously different sort of like battlefield sections. And obviously you can see on the right there's the Wraith's Gate, and there's different gates that lead to the different regions. So this was like a big checkpoint area that has now sort of been taken and turned into like a big war zone. But yeah, so I think it'll be exciting. I'm really excited to see how this goes. I'm just kind of plugging away at it, trying to, you know, wrap it up.
And a lot of what we've like shown, just kind of walking around, looks like there's a lot of like mountains and walls.
Yeah.
But that's actually just a small part of the map. The most of this map is going to be pretty like wide open.
Yeah, you can see where the mountainous areas are. It's just kind of at the border.
Yeah.
So and even the wall is mostly in the north, so it should be pretty interesting.
Cool. I think that's it for this. So if you switch back.
Oh, we're switched. Don't worry.
Okay.
I got you. I got you today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like that's kind of the general gist of the features that we're working on that are kind of close. I think. I don't think any of these features are too far out.
No, I think both the map, like the plan is to get that out for 00. What number are we on now?
30?
00,
Or is
30?
this-
00.
Yeah, I think it's 30. Is it
Yeah.
30?
It's coming out with the next update, most likely.
Even if it's close to 3.0, that's a lot of we put out a lot of updates.
Yeah, and the field machine gun, it won't be out in that update, but the border checkpoint, we're hoping to get that in there, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So if there's anything else you guys have to touch on,
No.
upcoming features, upcoming plans, anything like that?
No, we should probably. Oh wait, there is
There
one
is
more
an
thing.
upcoming plan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
Trying to segue.
Yeah, you're trying to. Is there anything else you want to say?
Anything?
Yeah. So, about tanks. So, I have something to say about tanks. Tanks are coming. We are working on them. We're working on them pretty actively now. One thing about these tanks is each faction is going to have their own versions of each tank, right? So it's going to be the first thing in the game that's going to be specific for each faction. So whatever tank we have, there's going to be like two versions of it, at least. Not at least, there will be two versions of it. and what we're going to do is just a little small kind of like fun thing. It's not too big of a deal, but the whoever wins
This
afternoon's World Conquest, we're gonna reveal the tank concept for that faction first, right?
Furthermore,
On the next dev stream.
there's a World Conquest this afternoon.
Well, I think they know that already.
Well,
Which
those
is-
that
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. So to sort of take all that stuff I just said, like there's gonna be tanks coming to both factions. Whoever wins this World Conquest, whichever faction, we're gonna reveal the tank concepts for that faction first. And the only real sort of special things to note there is that if anything weird or like unfair happens, like server crashes or like some sort of weird thing comes up, then we're not gonna go forward with that.
And we'll stop working on tanks and we'll
stop working on
If
tanks.
something
and
bad
there's
happens,
just-
you guys are out of luck.
If you guys don't finish this World Conquest, there's never gonna be tanks in the game. That's just, I'm sorry, but so hopefully that's something small to look forward to.
Yeah, if it's inconcluded, we'll just flip a coin or something.
If it's inconcluded, then we'll change the game plan there. But for now, we thought that could be a little fun thing to throw more fuel on the fire with this feud between the Colonials and the Wardens, right? So, yeah, that's it.
Ancient rivals.
Ancient rivalries, right?
So we're gonna move on to Q&A section of the stream. Today's been great. We're gonna move on to the Q&A section of the stream. So start asking your questions. I will start grabbing questions from the chat. Let's see. We've already got a question from L Merman 2001. Do you guys ever intend to implement greater team play features that increase communication and teamwork abilities, such as squad forming, squad spawning in trucks, in sync communications, etc., etc.?
Squad spawning trucks?
Yeah, you know, in like Battlefield, if you have a squad, you can just spawn in your squad leader, even if they're driving a vehicle or wherever they're.
Oh,
like that type
okay.
of thing. So, like, I guess just increase squad functionality.
Yeah, I think we do have a plan to do an improvement on the coalition system and sort of like expand the scope of that to include like squads in the future. In terms of specifically being able to spawn into like a squad vehicle, I don't think that's something we're ever really gonna do because it kind of goes against some of the principles of the game. Like, just like, why can you magically spawn in that spot? Like, no, you should have to like spawn at an outpost with supplies that have been supplied there by a supply line. So I don't think we'll ever do anything to the extent of a squad vehicle, but in terms of like sort of improving the communication tools for like smaller groups and squads, that is definitely something we're going to be interested in working on in the future.
Yeah, the map call out markers and like the in-game call out markers was kind of like the first step towards improving the communication tools in the game, and we want to add more stuff to make it easier to organize, make it a little more seamless so that people can talk to and
Yeah, I mean, what we have right now is just like, I would say it's like the bare minimum. Like we almost just have the bare minimum of what people need to like talk to each other and try to formulate a plan. And there's just one of those areas of the game where there's just so much potential for it to be so much better.
I mean, look at what CD is doing, right? With his online tool. People are using that, which something like that in the game would be awesome. But it's really cool that it's amazing that people are organizing as well as they are with the crappy tools that we've given them. So then they're making their own, which is amazing. But hopefully we can iterate on that and make it even better.
I just want to point out, they really want us to answer lore questions. You guys will just have to find that stuff.
Wait, what?
They really want us to answer lore questions. There's like 500 questions about lore.
Maybe you can take one.
I'm gonna let you take one. I'll ask you. You can answer it as best as you can.
Sure.
Is it alternate history or is it another world?
I regret it. Right.
So you guys can figure that out.
Okay. You know what?
You answer this.
I will say one thing,
Okay.
right? And you can take it. You might be mad at me after this, Matt, for saying this, but I'm just gonna say this one thing. It's not another world. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
That's a nice non-committal answer. Akiba9 asks, when are we planning on selling the game?
That's a good question. I think I can talk a little bit about that. I don't see this as like we're very, very far. As in, I don't think we're half a year away. I think in a couple of months. I think it's gonna come soon. I think we gotta, before we sort of lock down a date, and specifically I'm talking about the early access release, right? Because I don't think we've ever kind of like officially said how we're going to launch the game, but we've talked about it a whole lot. But it's going to go into an early access launch, and we think that it's a matter of months now. It's a matter of like several months down the road, unless there's some huge like crazy thing that kind of stops us, or if all the things that we have planned for World Conquest all fail and we need to sort of like go back to the drawing board with that. We think we're not too far from there. And it's also, like it's we've always been focused on making the best game possible, but you know, at some point we gotta sell the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
We gotta make back some money, right? So
Yeah.
it's expensive running a game like this. I can just say that. Yeah.
Making it and running it.
Making it and running it.
I know you're busy on this is Crazy Flying Chicken, by the way. I know you're busy on the new map, but any updates on Umbra Wildwood or in the Shore map revamps?
Yeah. I think once the Weather Expanse is out the door, then we will turn our attention over to the Endless Shore first, because that's when we got all the feedback last. And then I think that after that, the Umbra Wildwood will sort of be the next one, kind of like up at bat for us to fix.
Just a little bit of like insight into that process. We go through the entire process again from the beginning when we revamp one of these maps. So just keep that in mind. Like it's a process. It's not just like I go in and like move some roads around. Like if we're gonna do a full revamp, it's gonna be we're gonna do a full revamp. So.
And we did see all your feedback, and we did see your video, specifically Crazy Chicken. Yeah. and so we do have all your feedback, and we actually started some of those changes, but then the reason why we want to focus our attention on this new map is so that we can have the 6 there, so we have more variation for the World Conquest Wars, right? So
another comment about lore came up that I want to address. TurboSlab believes
that we're only answering one lore question.
It's not a lore question, it's a comment. TurboSlab believes that there is no lore and that we make it up on the fly.
That there is no lore?
Yeah, no, there's lore.
Okay, no, so
who knows?
So okay, the honest answer with that is we had a very loose plan, like the very beginning. I'm talking like last spring, right? And then it was kind of on pretty loose ground, and maybe parts of it we were kind of making up until like we started that process, man. I think last fall.
I mean, even the initial like notes and things that you guys found on the ground, like that was all based on a whole bunch of stuff that I just wrote isolated at my desk. Like it wasn't like it was planned, but it wasn't like it wasn't like highly scrutinized. And then we went through, Mark and I spent like months scrutinizing everything and going through everything and really like laying down
the foundation. So everything is like, trust us when we say that nothing is like arbitrary, like and I would say like that a lot of the stuff that's in the game actually it's based on like a sort of a long history that goes back like hundreds of years, and that's kind of where we actually spent a lot of time. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to hold off on because it would be really easy to.
I mean, we're definitely not making it up on the fly.
Yeah, no, but we're intentionally.
Hold on, there is one more thing that
go ahead.
I want to add to that. Actually, I think it's an important point. The reason why lore is important to us is not so much so that we have some story narrative that we can say X, Y, Z happened, and then this happened, and this happened. That's actually not the most important thing, because we don't think that that's like ultimately this game is the main focus. Is it's a multiplayer game, and it's about having a huge war, lots of players all work together. The reason why the lore is important is because when we go to like design a tank, let's say, right, or design what each faction looks like, if you don't have a deep lore set, right, you're just shooting from the hip, and you're just doing things like, oh hey, I saw this tank on like in this movie and it looks cool, or I saw this cool.
Yeah, you're gonna have like cowboys riding space tanks, right?
Because because everything, like everyone has a different idea about what is cool. The reason why the lore is important is because that is where the answers are. So if you're designing a tank, you know, okay, why does this tank look like this, right? Like why do the colonial uniforms look like this? Why are they using these weapons? And all those like decisions all tie back to lore. If you don't have a lore there that's solid, all that stuff is going to be like arbitrary, and then you just end up with a game with a mishmash of like all these different things. And to be fair, some of the stuff we made at the beginning that's still in the game now was kind of made that way.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of like this mishmash of stuff, but that's why all the new stuff we're making is based on a lore should be more solid, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got a question just now that's really interesting, and I'd like to hear your perspective. Triple L Twitch, which games are inspiring you, or how much do other games influence the development?
So that's a really good question. I love answering.
Yeah, I like that
It's
question.
my favorite question. And like to not sound sort of not humble about it, right? I kind of feel that like no real game really inspires this one, and that's why we chose to make it. I think there are some games that have tried to do similar things, and like, but they've had these very, very critical flaws that sort of like took away from the game, and that's why we consider there is really no other game like it.
I think maybe there's a difference between the word, like the concept of like an inspiration and like an influence. An influence would be something maybe that you like took from, but like an inspiration is something. So like I know that like really early on we talked about like EVE Online.
Yeah, I think EVE Online was
right.
Okay,
so
that's a good point.
When we talk about like inspiring, just like I think for me personally, that means like what games like have achieved things that you're like you look up to.
So no, I think that's a good point, Matt, because like a game like EVE Online is very different from Foxhole. But there is one thing I think that inspired us, I guess, from that game, and that would be the fact that it's these like user-made stories, right? User-made narratives that naturally came from the gameplay. It's not canned. It's not like, it's just like you hear these cool, crazy battles happening in EVE, and it didn't happen because like a game developer was there scripting this thing so that XYZ can happen. It happened because players naturally like got the game's world and the players to this point where these crazy war stories were kind of happening. And I was saying this sort of on the weekend that like our goal is not to make a game where it's just, I'm going off on a tangent, Matt, but I just like talking about this stuff.
This is exactly why
I just like talking about this stuff, right? It's like our goal of the game is to not have this fully balanced kind of like game where, like StarCraft as an example, where, that's much more of like a zero-sum game of like you win or you lose, right? And everything is known, but rather our goal is like to have this big world and sandbox where players are fighting this war and all these cool little stories happen, and so much of that has already happened. So even with the flawed version, or maybe not flawed, but maybe the work in progress game that we have right now, even then you hear about all these really cool stories happening, and that's the thing that we want to always like hone in on. And that's why to us, like, we're not going to tell anyone how to play the game, or we're not going to tell anyone what you like, what you should like, or what you shouldn't like. But for me personally, even if I'm like kind of losing in the game, I feel like I'm still getting some value from there, right? Because to me, as long as what's happening when I'm losing is a cool war story that I can tell, that I can talk about later, and then I can think back on, we've like succeeded there, right? And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Personally, when it comes to the stuff that I work on, I actually am really inspired by like Dark Souls. I think that's something that I talk about a lot in the office, and I know that with some of the other artists and stuff. And I think one of the reasons for that is they have really like tight level design, and that's something to like work towards. Personally, I believe. I think like when you look at like other games and what other studios have done, I think you look for like, at least from my perspective, I look at excellence, and I try to say like, no, can we achieve that in what we're trying to do? And that's always what I strive for.
And I think another thing that you've talked about is the way that they tell their story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't tell their story to you directly to you. Yeah. They make you figure it out. And I think, as you can see, that's something that we're very passionate about. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but about that question.
Any games that inspired you?
I mean, we've looked at different things in terms of, when we kind of came up with the idea, and then we retroactively went like, oh, okay, like, has anyone made any games like this? What's going on? And we didn't find anything really, but we did find, pieces of it kind of scattered across different games.
Yeah.
And it was cool, like, you know, seeing those different pieces, like even if they're not together. And it was kind of, I guess it kind of made it even more exciting to be able to say like, oh, we're gonna bring all those cool pieces together into this, like, you know, one unified vision. So I think pieces of it exist in other games. It's just I think that's why we're making it, is that we haven't seen it all together.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. Awesome. Still have time for a couple more questions, I think.
Yeah.
So, are we close to getting the new character models? And do you guys have hope to make different models for different ranks, or to kind of rephrase, maybe we can have different models for different situations? I think this question's come up a lot.
Yeah.
This comes from L-Torque _.
Yeah, so the new character models are actually not too far away. I think that it isn't guaranteed, and you know, I'd say maybe there's a reasonable chance, but not guaranteed, that you'll see them in the next update, right? Since HB's not there, I'm gonna say that because he will be upset if he was here.
What?
I just said that because you know, it's probably outside there. Like, why'd you say that, Mark? Like, no, but like, it might, you know, it's not like a guarantee, but I think that there's a reasonable chance that you'll see that in the next update. And what was the other one? Will there be outfits for ranks?
Yeah, I think the specific question will there be outfits for ranks, and I made an addendum as well, like, will we have different outfits, period.
Right, so there will be different outfits. So far what we planned hasn't been based on rank, but rather on various roles that you could take on, like a scout or like a heavy. But no plans for ranks yet. I think that could be a cool idea to differentiate sort of like an officer or something, but we have to figure out a way to work that into the gameplay that makes sense and make sure it's not just there for fluff.
And also, like, I think a lot of stuff hasn't been like sorted, like how our outfits can be acquired and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot that goes into something like that. There's another question, I can't remember who asked it, I think it's gone, it's scrolled up now, but what is the next big feature that we're looking forward to after World Conquest? I think I know the answer, but...
Probably tanks.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
yeah, it's probably tanks, and like there's still a lot of revamping we want to do with all the other like sort of meta systems, like mission objectives and like the text chat and squads, like we talked about. But I think the next big thing is going to be tanks, and it's not just another vehicle. We're also working on a bunch of supporting features to make sure that when we do have tanks, they can do the things that they should be able to do, and we want it to be as cool as possible, right?
Sounds great. I'm gonna take one last question. I'm just gonna kind of scroll up to some of the stuff that I missed. This has come up over the last few weeks. I think we've sort of avoided it. We may have answered one question about it, but Dark Hanov, I think, is the name. Will we get mines again in the future, and what are our plans to make them more detectable?
Sorry?
Will we get mines back in the
mines,
future,
yeah.
and like, do we have plans to make them more detectable?
Yeah, that's been such a hard one, and we haven't cracked that one yet. Like, we love the idea of mines, but there's just, I mean, one, I'll list the problems. I mean, one, there's like the griefing problem.
Yeah.
Two, like, how do you make it effective against the enemy, but not your own team in a way that doesn't feel really magical, that kind of breaks the immersion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mines
No,
have been
yeah,
something
it's
that's
just
just kind
been
of
it's in the back of our minds, but it's hard to they're either useless or they're OP and they're frustrating. So it's hard to find that. It's hard to find the point where they're fun to play with and useful and still.
I mean, there's
fit
another
in the world.
There's these weird pieces of content that makes sense to have in a game like this. Another one is like the sniper rifle.
Yeah, it's
right?
like everybody's like,
those
why don't you have a sniper rifle yet? It's like
it's one of those things that like it's so cool, and we want to figure out a way to make it work. But the main constraints for all these things is one, how do we make it not feel magical, and two, how can we make it not be too cheap, right? Like it's those are the two like balancing factors. How can it not be too cheap and still be fair in a way that isn't magical? And that's kind of the two constraints that we gotta figure out.
I'm personally a huge fan of mines. I'm personally a huge fan of things like flares. Like there's lots of stuff we talked about that obviously make a lot of sense. It's always a matter of like how can we integrate them best into the game without amplifying griefing. And I think that's where
another one is like the tank traps.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be so cool, right? But again, like you can grief so easily with something like that. Just place a bunch of them on the road on your own side's team, and then it's
griefing was something that we didn't really think about when we first started the project. I mean, we thought about it, but we didn't, I guess, realize the scale at which
we didn't realize this.
We didn't realize the lengths that people would go and the effort that people would put into.
It's insane because like
I mean, in some ways, it's I guess it's a compliment, but
it's so crazy. But in coming out with a feature like the factory system, I think griefing was like probably more than 75% of the thought process of the work went into like making sure people aren't able to grief the system, right?
Mm.
And it's ridiculous because we'd be in this room smashing like our heads against the wall and we're like, we got it, this is how it's gonna work. And he'd be like, well, what about this one guy who's so dedicated that he's gonna go and do this and push this button and do that, and then suddenly he ruins the whole system, right?
Yeah.
So it's just
All right, guys. Well, that is going to bring an end to our bi-weekly dev stream for Foxhole. There is a
World Conquest
War going to happen. Yeah. So why don't you just talk about that? One last words.
Yep. World Conquest trial number 3 is going to be happening in about half an hour. 3:30.
I'd say in about 3:30 Eastern Standard Time.
3:30 Eastern Time, and
we won't screw it up this time.
And if there's problems, it could start later, and we'll let you guys know. But it won't start earlier than 3:30. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully, we'll see you guys there.
Awesome. Thank you again. My name is Matt. This is Alcast. This is Mark. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and have a good war.
See ya.